you might be demonstrating a failure to show appreciation.
That's how I feel when I hear of criticisms of Martin Scorsese's The Irishman as just another rehashed gangster movie. The Irishman is much more than that. It uses the aesthetics of gangster movies, a genre Scorsese knows all too well, to tell a much deeper, much more important story about aging and death. So it's no surprise that the movie features old collaborators of Scorsese's, especially on these gangster films like Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci. The Irishman fixates on death a lot, and that's what the movie is about. Every time a new character is introduced, text on screen shows when and how they die. The primary plot of the film itself is about the assassination of Jimmy Hoffa, the most popular union leader of his time. Another prominent death that features in The Irishman is the death of John F. Kennedy, and the film even suggests that these characters were in on it.
If they can whack a president, they can whack a president of a union.
But all of these things, the assassinations, the mob hits, the conspiracy theories, are all just
banal details of everyday life that ultimately add up to a life that you have to leave.
And that is what The Irishman is about. The first 2 hours of its daunting 3.5-hour runtime is dedicated to just convoluted mob stories, ego battles, and most of all, the humor.
You dumb motherfuckers!
All of those good things we love about gangster movies, but the last hour is where this film shines. When we are left alone with Frank Sheeran in an old age home, and he's talking to the camera, to us, rambling about a world that he knew and lived in and was such a visceral part of, but one that is increasingly irrelevant. When his friends from the mob are gone, when his daughter stops talking to him, when he has practically no reason to live or even lie about any of the terrible things he did, he still chooses to not speak to the FBI.
He's dead.
Who's dead?
It's a vain attempt at relevance, and this extends to his desperate attempts to make peace with God before he dies, not out of any genuine sincerity, but almost as pragmatic a reason as when he chose to kill people. Towards the end, he picks out his own coffin, a green color, a nod to his Irish ancestry, to try to associate with some kind of identity that would have him, something that he understands, that would justify his existence and make all the terrible things he did worth it. But there is nothing at the other end of that corridor.
You're dead, but it ain't that final.
Martin Scorsese ended Goodfellas with an homage to the great train robberies scene where the cowboy is shooting into the camera. It shows Henry Hill reminiscing his exciting, luxurious mob life. 30 years later, Martin Scorsese ends The Irishman, not in a gunfight, not in a police roundup. Instead, it's Frank Sheeran sitting in an old age home, staring out into an empty corridor, and Frank Sheeran, as opposed to Henry Hill's wistful gaze, is terrified.